Hey guys, Beretta Miller USA here, and today's video is going to be the Glock 30 versus the Dan Wesson Tactical Compact Pistol. So a 1911 versus a Glock, full chambered in 45 ACP. The Glock carries 10+1 versus your 1911 being either a 7+1 with a flush fitting mag, or 8+1, or 10+1 if you run one of these really nice high quality Wilson mags. Let's get the apples to oranges part out of the way here, and that would be comparing a striker fired pistol here. Talking about the trigger system on the Glock in comparison to the 1911, which is a single action only pistol, meaning that the hammer has to be cocked back for this pistol to fire. Next thing to talk about here would be the safeties in comparing these two. The Glock, the only safety on the Glock is right there in between the trigger itself. You have a little plastic blade that has to be depressed in the middle of the trigger, otherwise the trigger cannot be pulled. Again, you have to press that piece in the middle, and then you've got activation of the trigger to be pulled backwards. In comparison to a 1911, the 1911 has a couple different safeties, one of them being right here. This is a passive style safety when you grip the gun, and that would be the beaver tail grip safety back here. Again, you have a nice memory bump at the bottom, an extended profile to it. You're not going to get any hammer bite or anything weird like that with this. Dan Wesson, well made, all forged parts, no mim, no cast, none of that crap on this pistol. Super well made. Listen to that safety go on and off. Really well blended and profiled, no sharp edges at all anywhere on this. Thanks, Wilson, for making a bunch of noise in my video. I love you. All right, back to the pistol. Running a extended magazine release. Really nice profile magazine release. Love the quality of, again, the parts on Dan Wesson. All top notch. Undercut, slightly undercut trigger guard right here. Running 25 lines per inch. Checkering on the front strap and mainspring housing. And that is a one-piece mainspring housing magwell. Production gun, not very well blended at magwell. Does not look great, but again, it's a production gun. If it was a $2,500 gun, $3,000 gun, that would not be acceptable to me, but it looks fine for a $1,600, $1,700. And again, back to the safety. So again, beaver tail grip safety right here, and then you have a manual thumb safety right there that has to be pressed down in order for this pistol to be able to be fired. Again, extremely positive. Very stiff. That's the way you want your safety to be on a 1911. You don't want it loose. You don't want it to be so loose that it accidentally activates, or too tight that it is difficult to activate. 4-inch barrel, again, the compact style slide. Running also flat wire recoil springs. You can see how they profiled that off really nicely. Tremendously fit safety. Again, a defined stop. You can see slightly the hole underneath the safety there. Pushing from the safety to the beaver tail grip safety, let's talk about that. How much pressure do you have to put on the grip safety before it activates? Or do you have to press it in? About right there. So you can see it's about 45%, maybe 50% for activation. And letting it out. There you go. Not bad, again, for a production 1911. Big claim to fame on a 1911 versus a Glock would be the trigger. The trigger on a 1911 is so smooth, and it's just such a vibe, man, compared to a Glock. It is just tremendous. Again, it's a straight pull and just clean AF. You know what I'm saying, guys. Here's the reset on this Dan Wesson TCP. Ooh. Reset. Full press, against the wall, brakes. Such a good trigger on this Dan Wesson. In comparison to the Glock, again, safe action style trigger, about 5 pounds here on the Glock, 5-pound trigger on this ECP if I remember right as well. What are we running on the tactical compact pistol? Or carry pistol, whatever the hell you call this thing. Yeah. Rolling some trigger pulls. So here's this Gen 4 Glock, take up, hits the wall you think, but you have a little bit more movement before it breaks. Reset. Right there. Again, lots of movement. before you hit that wall and break. Quite a bit of movement in this Glock trigger. In comparison to this Glock right here, G30SF, stiffer trigger, less movement, better trigger in my opinion on this Glock 30SF. Again, there's your take up, hit the wall, we're at the wall, a little bit more movement, boom. I like this trigger on this Glock 30SF a little bit better than on the Gen 4 Glock 30. Again, the differences between the SF and the Gen 4, really it's just your texture on your frame. You got the Gen 4 texture here versus that Gen 3 texture pattern on the SF, which again stands for short frame. But it really is just slim frame because it's reducing the overall grip circumference here of the Glock 30, making it a little bit more ergonomic in hand to hold. Real quickly, I want to cover the sights on these pistols. On this Glock 30 SF, you're running Glock factory night sights. Glock 30 Gen 4, I'm running a set of True Glow Pro night sights. Highly visible front sight. On the Dan Wesson ECP and TCP, it's a U-notched ledge rear sight, brass bead front sight, and a fully serrated top strap to reduce glare. Again, bull barrel on the Dan Wesson, tri-top slide, really well fit and blended. Quality pistols. Ledge profile rear sight, makes it easy to cock it off something if need be. The TCP with its rail and one-piece magwell. Alloy frame, the TCP weighs in at about 31-32 ounces. Perfectly blended rear of the slide and frame, as far as that ejector and extractor. Square profile tactical duty hammer, so it is a duty-coated hammer, no rusting issues. If you get a non-coated duty hammer on a Dan Wesson, you're probably going to run into some rust issues. Know that going into it. Between the two pistols, you guys, if I had to choose one between a 1911 or the Glock 30, personally it's going to come down to the 1911 for me. It's a more ergonomic pistol and feels absolutely tremendous in the hand, very balanced, love the feel. And it's just a little bit easier for me to use, personally, compared to the Glock. Now, I definitely run into a lot of issues, I found out, with the Glock 36. So this would be your single stack 45, 1911 comparison, of course. An interesting fact from being a lefty and trying to run the Glock 36, I can't drop the magazine from this pistol if I press on it as a lefty, but as a righty, no problems, of course, it drops free. Anyway, kind of interesting. This is some stuff that I found out from owning these guns and manipulating them. So I know what platform I enjoy more and I know what works best for me. You guys may prefer the Glock over the 1911 and that's okay, but for my money, I'm going to go with the 1911 over the Glock, the old Glock 30. Quality pistols, both of them. The bull barrel, 19 by God 11. Appreciate you guys watching this video. You guys have a great one. And don't forget to vote this election season. And as always, remember, your Second Amendment is worth protecting.